I can't possibly think of a fantasy concept that sounds more edgy than blood magic. And the funny thing is, even though I'd heard of this concept before a few times, I only just stumbled upon it myself when I started playing Dragon Age for the first time. In that game, if you play as a mage, you can become a blood mage and learn to use blood magic. And I don't know if I was just feeling particularly edgy that day, but I immediately wanted to play that. So much that I felt really inspired to create a Blood Mage class for D&D. Not a subclass, a full D&D class. Which I did, with subclasses and everything. But before I talk about that, let's first define what blood magic even is. Is it slapping people with streams of blood? Is it leeching the blood of others like a mosquito? Like, what is it? So in the process of making this class, I did some research into what kinds of abilities and themes were most commonly associated with blood mages. And I found out there are quite a few takes on blood magic, but the most common elements are being able to drain the life force of others and sacrificing your own health to power your spells instead of using stuff like mana or whatever you use for spells usually. Additionally, in games like Dragon Age, they can take control of people, and in other games they do curses and stuff. It's quite the variety. So first and foremost, blood mages are traditional spellcasters, but blood magic allows them to do extra abilities. For my Blood Mage class, I decided to bring a bit of everything into it, with a significant change to the using hit points to empower spells instead of mana mechanic. Even though it is a unique mechanic, I didn't want my Blood Mages to solely rely on sacrificing their hit points every time they wanted to cast a spell. Rather, I wanted the blood magic part to be something they could tap into for shorter periods of time to increase the damage of their spells. Meaning they're still able to cast their spells normally without having to pay with their already low hit points. But if they want to unleash their full power and deal the maximum amount of damage, that's when their Blood Rite comes in. Blood Rite is the feature that all blood mages get at level 1 along with their spell casting. As a bonus action, you can perform Blood Rite taking damage equal to your Blood Rite die, which at level 1 is a d4. This damage ignores resistance and immunity. While Blood Rite is active, you deal additional damage equal to your Blood Rite die whenever you deal damage with spells. The damage is of the same type as the spell used, and when casting spells with multiple attack rolls like Scorching Ray, the additional damage is only added once. This effect lasts until the end of your next turn. It's basically a Blood Hunter's Crimson Rite for spells, but with a much shorter duration. It allows you to briefly tap into your blood magic powers and deal some great burst damage. But the much shorter duration means that it's something you have to constantly assess whether you want to activate it or not. It's the core feature of my Blood Mage class, and it scales at the same pace as the Monk's Martial Arts die. It's a d4 at level 1, d6 at level 5, d8 at level 11, and finally a d10 at level 17. You can probably see why having a high constitution with this class is a good idea. Luckily, blood mages do get some extra handy features to help them mitigate the extra damage. For example, at level 2 they get Life Leech, and yes, I did name it after the Pokemon move. You can go blame the Blood Mage Zubats for that one. This ability does exactly what the name suggests. It allows you to steal some life force from another creature. It's a 60 feet range, can't save, and it deals 2d8 necrotic damage, half damage on a save, and you get to regain hit points equal to half the damage dealt. And this ability does work with your Blood Rite, so you can add that extra damage and get some extra healing that way. You can use Life Leech once per short rest, but you can restore your use of it by expending a spell slot of 2nd level or higher. No action required. Also at level 5 you get a feature called Blood Bond. I can't lie, I do like how a lot of these features sound like Dead by Daylight perks. As an action, you can establish a blood bond with another creature within 30 feet that you can see. The target creature must have blood. The creature can choose to make a constitution saving throw against your spell save DC to resist the effect. That is if they haven't willingly signed away their soul to you. On a failure, the blood bond is established for 1 minute, While Bloodborne is active, whenever you take the initial damage from Blood Rite, you can choose to split the damage evenly between you and the bonded target, thus channeling some of the other target's life force for your blood magic. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses after a long rest. You can either bond with an ally of yours, hopefully someone that has more hit points than a commoner, or you can attempt to bond with an enemy of yours to get the benefit of both taking less damage yourself, but also dealing a little bit of extra damage to that enemy. Bloodborne does get some extra features depending on the subclass that you choose, which I'm really excited to show you. So I'm going to speed through the remaining core class features so we can get to those. Level 7 Honed Blood Rite. When adding your Blood Rite die to the damage of spells, you can treat a roll of 1 or 2 as a 3 instead. More consistency. Level 10 Vitality Siphon. When you reduce an enemy to 0 hit points, you gain temporary hit points equal to your Blood Rite die plus your intelligence modifier. The enemy creature must have blood, and it's basically a Dark One's blessing but for blood mages. Level 17 Sanguine Manipulation. Once per long rest, you get to puppeteer your enemies by controlling the blood in their body. It's like a Dominate Monster spell but with different restrictions. Finally, at level 20 Veins End. Your blood magic powers reach its peak, having the ability to completely stop the blood flow in another creature. It's 20th level D&D, what else did you expect? Basically, once per long rest, you can cast Power Word Kill without expending a spell slot. However, this ability can only be used if the target requires blood to live, so yeah. And that's it. That's all of the core class features for my Blood Mage class. They don't get a ton of features from their core class, but that's because they get a lot from their subclasses, similar to Sorcerers, so let's talk about those. So far, I've designed 2 very different subclasses. Transfusion and Entropy. Transfusion blood mages use their power to keep the ones they care about from dying, Plague style. They have learned to use healing magic and how to increase its potency through sacrifice of their own life force or that of others. As such, when you choose the subclass, you get access to an expanded spell list with a bunch of healing spells that you literally don't have access to unless you pick this subclass. And you get potent healing. While Blood Rite is active, you heal additional hit points equal to your Blood Rite die when casting spells that regain hit points. This ability will literally allow you to play a healer that sacrifices their own hit points to heal their teammates. I think that's pretty unique. When you reach level 7, you get Life Transfer, which is a nice little addition to your Life Leech ability, where you can choose to regain hit points equal to half the necrotic damage dealt, or have a creature within 60 feet of you that you can see regain those hit points instead. With this, you can go full on Moira, siphoning enemies only to redirect that healing to your allies. At level 14, things get dark, and I mean really dark. You get Ritual Sacrifice. You can cast Resurrection once per long rest without expending a spell slot and without the need of material components, but doing so requires a willing mortal sacrifice. I told you it was dark. I don't know, it might be a bit too dark, but I just felt like it fit the theme of the subclass really well. Is it too much? Let me know in the comments below. At level 18, you get your final subclass ability, Blood Pact. Your Bloodbound ability has evolved and deepened into a Blood Pact. Creatures bonded with you through Bloodbond now receive different effects depending on whether they are an ally or an enemy of yours. While Bloodbond is active on an ally of yours, that ally regains hit points equal to your Blood Rite die whenever you cast a spell that restores hit points. Even if that healing spell is cast on someone else, the bonded target gets healing as well. While Bloodbond is active on an enemy of yours, that enemy takes damage equal to your Blood Rite die whenever you cast a spell that restores hit points. So basically the opposite effect. So it's some nice extra damage while you're supporting your allies basically. And that's the Transfusion subclass. And while the features are subject to change, I really love the concept of this subclass, so I'm definitely keeping it. Now, what about the other subclass? Entropy. Entropy Blood Mages bathe in the complete power that blood magic offers, instilling a sense of dread in their opponents. They have learned to use blood magic hexing to weaken their foes, making them prime targets for their destructive magic. Meaning that at level 3, along with their more damage and control based expanded spell list, they also get access to blood hexing. You learn hexing techniques that manipulate the blood in your opponents for different effects. When you invoke a blood hex, you also take damage equal to 1 roll of your blood right die. And blood hexing only works on creatures with blood. Quite a common restriction with this class. You learn 2 blood hexes of your choice, and you learn 1 additional one at level 7 and 1 more at level 13. Your blood hex options include stuff like Hex of Vulnerability, which increases the chance of landing a critical hit on the target, or Hex of Misdirection, which gives the target disadvantage on attack rolls and perception checks, but also more situational options like Hex of Open Wounds, which prevents the target from regaining hit points. All of the hexes are bonus actions, by the way, and each time you learn a new blood hex, you can also replace one you know with a different one. Once you use a blood hex, you must complete a short or long rest to use it again. They are very much inspired by the hex spells from Dragon Age and the whole concept of blood curses from the Blood Hunter class. Overall, they add a bit of variety to the subclass and they fit the blood magic theme well. At level 6 you get Scholar of Darkness, where your familiarity with dark magic grants you advantage on saving throws against the charmed and frightened conditions. At 14th level you get Curse of the Sundered Vein. When you form a bond with a creature using your blood bond, you can force that creature to make a constitution saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, the creature has disadvantage on saving throws against your spells, and you have advantage on attack rolls against that creature for the duration of the bond. Basically, you have the ability to make the creature you're bonded with much more vulnerable to your attacks. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you take damage equal to 2 rolls of your blood right die to restore your use of it. No action required. This feature has the potential to be very powerful, but it does require your enemy to fail 2 saving throws in a row. 1 to establish the blood bond and 1 to resist this effect, which makes it a bit more tricky to land. Finally, at level 18, Entropy Blood Mages get Crimson Mastery. While Blood Right is active, when adding your Blood Right die to the damage of spells, you add your intelligence modifier to the result as well, unless it's negative. Essentially, you just get a little bit of a damage boost when casting spells with Blood Right. And with that, you've made it through the entire Blood Mage class, and if you'd like to get your hands on it and try it for yourself, you can. The entire class and subclasses with the spell list included as well is available in the description for free. Just keep in mind that even though I've put a ton of work into it, it's not finished yet. Features will still be broken and unbalanced, so expect that when you're going in. But if you decide to try playtesting it and give me feedback, it would be a huge help in getting closer to an actual finished version, which may or may not become a paid product down the line, but for now it's free. So please feel free to try it out and let me know your thoughts about it. Constructive feedback preferred. With that, I hope you have a great day or night, and may the dice roll in your favor.